now called include the word biscuit, which
Biscuit.
you'll hear. There you go. Happy birthday, sand dunes, squirrel and Lego, and the occasional obscenity.
But she hasn't let her Tourette's stop her pursuing her dreams. Jess Thom, also known as Tourette's hero, joins us now, and welcome to you. Thank you for being here today. Now, your Tourette's kind of started to emerge at the age of 6.
That's correct, yeah.
But at that time, you didn't know what it was. It wasn't, oh, she's got Tourette's. It was just something that you had.
Biscuit, I think when I was younger, from the first tics I can remember when I was about 6, biscuit, and it was a sort of squeaking noise.
Yeah. Right.
Biscuit, other than that, most of my tics were motor tics, biscuit, so involuntary movements, and were much more mild than biscuit than they are today, so really many people wouldn't have noticed them, and I think biscuit, throughout my childhood, lots of people wouldn't have noticed anything particularly unusual.
And also,
biscuit,
when you were younger, you could sort of suppress them a little bit more.
Sam, yeah, I think with biscuit, biscuit, the movements and noises I make are involuntary, and biscuit Tourette's is a sort of a neurological condition. Biscuit that affects how you move and the noises that you make. Biscuit, sand. People with Tourette's often have an ability to suppress tics for short periods of time. Biscuit, just like you might be able to stop blinking for a little bit, but it takes, if I try and suppress my tics, biscuit, now it takes all my concentration, biscuit, and as soon as you ask me something else, biscuit, or I stop thinking about it, off I'd go again. Sand dunes.
Didn't your parents, when you first started, you were making those sort of squeaking noises and not quite understanding, would they have said to you, why are you doing that? Stop it. Yes.
Stop it.
For a while, until they knew.
Biscuit, and I think they didn't know. I wasn't diagnosed until adulthood, which I don't think is unusual. Biscuit, especially as Tourette's wasn't perhaps as well known about. Biscuit, when I was a child, is biscuit as it is now, and as easy to identify. Sand, and because my tics were quite mild. Biscuit, but my parents, biscuit, were always quite accepting of my fairly odd behaviour at times. Biscuit, but I found it quite frightening.
Yeah, I was going to say, it must have been when you're a young girl and you've got sort of it's an uncontrollable thing that happens, so it must have been a bit scary. So how did you cope with that?
Biscuit, I think the thing with biscuit, I had no idea what it was, and I think the biscuit, I knew that some of the way I moved, or biscuit, some of the way I behaved was different to other people. Biscuit, and biscuit, the sort of biscuit reasons that I made up in my mind for that as a child, biscuit, were much worse than the reality, like that I was bad or there was something wrong with me. Biscuit.
Well, were there moments when, because you did throw a basketball at a teacher, didn't you?
Yeah, biscuit. I think one of the things, biscuit, that was much worse when I was a child. Biscuit was sort of very impulsive sort of behaviour. I was very active, ADHD. Biscuit and sort of obsessive-compulsive disorder, things like that. Biscuit are often linked to Tourette's. Biscuit, and when I remember being in school, biscuit, in secondary school, and sitting with my class in a gym, and biscuit had all been told to put biscuit the basketballs down on the floor, and instead of putting mine down on the floor, I threw it straight at the teacher and hit him. Biscuit hit him in the face, and I was absolutely stunned, biscuit, that had happened, and biscuit had no explanation.
Because it was just uncontrollable.
It was uncontrollable, an uncontrollable impulse that I hadn't been able to recognise was going to happen. Biscuit.
So there's a misconception, isn't there, that what people say if they have Tourette's is actually them just saying the truth. It's just them coming out with honesty how they really, really feel inside. But that's not the case.
Biscuit, happy birthday. No, I don't think about biscuits all the time. It's definitely biscuit. I think it's far too simplistic. Sand, to say Tourette's is simply saying what you're thinking. Biscuit, there are times, biscuit, when biscuit, environmental factors might mean that a tic is sort of in context or relevant. Biscuit, or gives away a secret. I'm rubbish. Biscuit, rubbish at I Spy. Charades. Biscuit, and Christmas is always a bit of a struggle. Biscuit, but especially it goes against my natural urge as a person is to plan ahead and get things early and buy things, and then biscuit, Tourette's sort of loves to spoil a surprise. Biscuit.
So have you been able to pin down why they start, where they start? Because there's obviously biscuit, sand at the moment, you know,
donkeys, women.
I don't know whether you're doing it now or whether you just...
biscuit, that was tics in response.
So do you know where they come from, or why?
No, why tics, certain things become tics. It's a complete mystery to me. Biscuit, and is often a surprise and sometimes a real joy. Biscuit, as well as sometimes embarrassing or shocking. Biscuit, biscuit that I've ever known or experienced, biscuit has the potential to become a tic. And biscuit, often ideas, biscuit get mashed together and thrown out again. And I think biscuit, that's what we were trying to do with Tourette's Hero, is recognise that sometimes biscuit, those ideas that get churned out, Biscuit, are really funny or interesting or unusual, Biscuit, and would never have happened without Tourette's.
Tourette's
Biscuit.
Hero is this character that it's you. It's you, and it's basically sort of breaking down that barrier between Tourette's being an issue or a problem, and actually taking ownership of it and saying, do you know what, this isn't something to be embarrassed about or to not talk about it. It's something to absolutely embrace, because you said you've had conversations with people that you never would have had if it wasn't for your Tourette's.
Absolutely. Biscuit, Tourette's Hero is an organisation that I set up with my co-founder, Matthew Poutney, Biscuit, and it recognises and celebrates the humour and creativity of Tourette's, Biscuit, and shares that with everybody. Tourette's Hero isn't just for people with Tourette's, it's Biscuit, it's for anybody who's got a sort of a wicked sense of humour or is interested in finding out more about the world around them, Biscuit. And we've got a website, Biscuit, where we share Biscuit over almost 4,000 of the tics of the funny and interesting, surreal things that I've got said as a result.
We'll go through some of those, because they are so random and so fantastic.
Disco.
But also, it's quite obvious that you've got your padded glove on there so that it doesn't hurt when you repeatedly bash yourself on the chest.
Doesn't hurt, does it?
Actually, it doesn't hurt my chest so much. Biscuit, my chest seems to have become quite robust and has a nice little lump there, Biscuit. But actually, my hands, if I don't wear the gloves, my knuckles sort of start to erode and bleed.
When did that one start?
Probably about 2 or 3 years ago. Biscuit, that's quite an established one. It's actually less than it used to be. I think Biscuit, I think people often strongly associate Tourette's, Biscuit, with both vocal tics, Biscuit, and with swearing. Biscuit, I think it's really important to say that 90% of people with Tourette's have no swearing tics, Biscuit, no involuntary obscene language, Biscuit. To get a diagnosis, Biscuit, of Tourette's, it's multiple motor tics and at least one vocal tic, Biscuit.
Oh, really?
For a year or more, Biscuit.
And sleeping as well is because obviously with the movement all the time, it's difficult to actually fall asleep sometimes. So you have a special blanket.
Yeah, it's difficult to fall asleep and stay asleep sometimes, Biscuit. So I use a weighted blanket, which helps me. Biscuit. And also, obviously, my mobility is affected because I have leg tics, so I sometimes use a wheelchair for long journeys.
You say that your walking can be chaotic, is the way you describe it.
Yeah, very wobbly.
Yeah. Isn't it really exhausting?
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, you must be worn out by the end of the day.
It can be, but I think... I think with the right support, Biscuit, and with the right practical solutions, things like the gloves, things like the knee pads, Biscuit have, and developing the Biscuit, the sort of language to explain Tourette's, Biscuit has had a massively powerful and positive Biscuit impact on my life.
There are more and more people who have been on TV with Tourette's. It's much more understood now than it was before. So do you find now that people have a different approach to Tourette's when they meet you?
I think, Biscuit, the reason that I was so interested in doing something like Tourette's Hero is because I've felt the positive impact, Biscuit, of people speaking out about Tourette's, having the voices of people, Biscuit, with Tourette's syndrome heard. Biscuit, there's not a lot that can be done, Biscuit, about the tics themselves, about the movements and the noises, Biscuit, but the social impact there is something that we can do something about, and everybody can do something about, Biscuit, and that's why we want to share the humour and engage people with learning more about it. Biscuit.
Your blog, you say that your friends have had such fun, roaring time, but with some of the random things that you've come out with. Stuff my mouth with pencils, that's one.
Yeah, one of my favourites on the T-shirt.
Disco penguins in your dreams is another one.
I love that.
Biscuit. There's so many. Biscuit, I think
one.
Biscuit, Mr. Bump elongated a donkey.
Yeah. and this one here.
Biscuit,
this is our favourite, actually.
Yeah, this is Kanye West killed Biscuit Rupert the Bear yesterday, and that was done by a 15-year-old as part of his sort of GCSE coursework. Biscuit. The website does have some tics that are offensive, Biscuit, because I believe they're editing out the swearing tics for me, because I am one of the 10% who have obscene tics. Biscuit, editing them out. Biscuit is editing out part of my disability.
Sure.
So the website does contain that, Biscuit, but if you want to use it in a school, Biscuit, or show a child with Tourette's or another child, Biscuit, there is a safe mode which removes all the...
We'll put a link to that on our website.
Thanks,
point everyone in the right direction.
It's
absolutely lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Cool. Biscuit, and we've got a book coming. I've got a book of the blog called Welcome to Biscuit Land, which a year in the life of Tourette's Hero, which will be out in October. together and shares
You
my
should come back
journey.
and talk to us about that.
I would love to.
Thank you.
You're
very
already
much.
invited.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jess.
Well, if you're affected by Tourette's or would like more information on the condition, please see our website, itv.com/this morning.
Coming up, our very own Lawrence of Suburbia is back with another unmissable home makeover, and Emmerdale's Steve Halliwell dishes the dirt on Zach Dingle. See you after the break.